Hello everybody, how you doing? This is Mira Denning. I'm a presidential diamond up in the Portland area of Maine. And I am doing this video today because there is something I am so passionate about. And I want to help other people kind of find that passion or feel empowered to do something that has changed my life. So I build, if you have followed my journey at all or follow me on Facebook, I build on social media as sort of my foundation of my business. And I've been in 4.5 years and kind of climbed the ranks systematically. My first year sat at double diamond for a couple years and then promoted to triple and presidential diamond last year in 2018. And it's just been an amazing journey and built up to now a 6-figure income. I was able to retire from my job in June 2018 because of the 6-figure income I was making as a then triple diamond. And so much of that had to do with what I'm going to talk about right now, which is parties. So I build on social media, Facebook live videos, starting to do more stories, a lot of attraction marketing things, if you know that. And I also focus a lot on my local market up here in the Portland, Maine area. So I really look at Maine and New Hampshire. And that adding people from that geographic sphere has really been a way to allow me to do a hybrid strategy of both social media and belly to belly or parties or sample nights, whatever you want to call it. You know, when I started this business, a lot of people would say, do you build belly to belly or do you build on social media? I mean, it was like either or. And what I started doing in 2017 is doing both and bringing them together so that they really work together in a synergistic way, okay? And that was because I was adding people on Facebook in, roughly 2, 3, 4 hour sphere for me. And then as I either signed them as distributors off of social media or created a relationship or whatever it was, I would be able to drive because they were close and do parties with them. Now, let me talk about parties. There's a mythology around parties. I really call them sip and samples, but I'll say parties for shorthand right now. So there's a mythology around parties that they're either really hard, take a lot of time, you need 1 million products. And so this video is called Simple Sip and Samples because I want to help new distributors understand that you don't need to have tons of stuff. You don't need to have a ton of knowledge. And for leaders to understand the power of these sample nights that you can have with your newer distributors. So what I do on our team historically, and now we're really restarting that again with earnest this summer, is when somebody starts the business, they start on social media usually, okay? And for us, that's largely Facebook, but sometimes Instagram. And they may also do stuff that's more like one-on-one to get their first 4 customers, whether that's, at work or with family or whatever. That's not really part of a sample night or a party. But usually people launch on Facebook or Instagram first. That's really kind of the first step. But then about week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in that like initial period, we do try to have sample nights. And why? Because when you launch on social media, it's awesome. You get tons of interest. Your reach is wide, right? Because people from all over the world can see your posts. It doesn't matter where your network is. But you always are going to have warm market folks. Usually most people will have warm market folks in their immediate sphere where they live, meaning close to where they live. Or maybe if you grew up in another area or family are in another area, like central to another area. Let's say, for example, I have a distributor up here in Maine who grew up in New Jersey. So she has a lot of people in a certain part of New Jersey where she grew up, and that's where her mom is. So you have that like proximity where you can host an event, a sample night, and bring in all that warm market and have all of those people that have gotten curious or you started conversations with on social media, you bring them to you in person. And this is it doesn't sound complicated because it's really not, but it is something that wasn't going on a ton when I started. And I, as well as other people, started bridging those two things. And what was happening was over and over and over again, we'd launch a new distributor on social. I'd go and do a party, whether that was 1, 2, 3, 4 hours away with them, let's say around week 4. And at that party, they, at that point, have been out enough that they have a little bit of confidence, but still need, a lot of reassurance and want to learn from the experience of watching a leader talk about the products and talk to people that are interested. And in turn, the people that are in their network get to sample stuff from my stash. And that has been awesome because, I have a bunch of stuff. And then they usually order, or if they're already loyal customers, order more. And also because I was there and I was sharing my story usually for a couple minutes, I'll talk about that in a little bit, that often turned people, they might walk in like super skeptical about everything and become PDTs or even sign distributors when they leave the room. It is your close rate at a party, I have to say, is insane because people are right in front of you. And so unless they truly do not have the money, most people come into the parties assuming that they're going to sign up, the people that show up. So I hope that helps. And so we did that over and over and over and over again and branched that out to other leaders on our team. And that created tons of great sample nights where we close a lot of people. Leaders would be able to touch potentials and be able to help close them in person, again, including potential distributors. And also we're just pouring into that distributor. They get to learn by watching people that are more experienced in action. Often also the leader would bring more products than the newbie had even tried. So that's great for the new distributor as well to be able to try more things. So this is how I built all the way from being paid to diamond to basically presidential diamond in about 10 months, and really doing both really loud on social media, but then actively building into our team culture that every new distributor, once they're around week 4, are going to do a sample night and with support. And again, sometimes that was a different point in their business, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, but around that time. So let me walk you through. I hope that explains how we use them and why we do them. But let me explain a little bit more. Like, okay, I am a green. I got a lot of green. I'm a red green. So I got a lot of green in me. Let me explain a little bit more how I actually set them up and how simple they are to do. Because this is a lot of, I think, what holds people back. They're like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? Is this going to be something that's like super out of my comfort zone, or super hard to organize, or super complicated in person? So it's not. It's easy. And I am, for me, I am a busy single mom. I mean, I got a lot going on and I was working full time most of the time, and I was also doing these parties. So here's how we do them. Okay. So first of all, super basic stuff, but I'm going to literally walk you through because I know some people really want all the details. So the first thing we do is roughly around 2 weeks before we're going to hold the party. Not much more notice than that, because if you go like 3 or 4 weeks out, that's too much notice. Like, people honestly forget. But roughly 2 weeks, sometimes it's even, 10 days or whatever. We'll put up a Facebook event that is just like the invite, and it'll say, for example, Mira's Sip and Sample. And then usually in the address, I'll put Mira's house. So I usually put the distributor's house. Just often I'm the one creating the invite, so I just want people to feel like it's really that person's party. And then we just put a little note in the blurb from the distributor. So let's say I was doing a party for one of my newer distributors, Christy. It was the blurb, even though I'm writing it, would say something like, I'm so excited for everyone to check out these products I've been raving about. See you then /Christy, dash Christy. So we set that up, and I just tell the distributor to invite the world. Invite the world, invite 50 people, invite 100 people. Your household's 3, that's okay, because people self-select out, okay? So you want to invite everybody, and then, you might have a lot of people that don't respond or don't, or make excuses, or don't even make excuses. They're just not into it. So that's okay. That's normal. But you do want to just I just tell everybody, invite the world, okay? And then from there, so you do that, again, about 2 weeks out. And there, maybe usually like the next day or the day after, we have a really short and sweet, simple note that we send to everybody that's been invited but has not RSVP'd. And then in some cases, we also have people, like people's grandmas or great aunts, that aren't on Facebook, so aren't even going to get that invite, and we'll do that too. So that little note will say something like, Hey Meg, just wanted to let you know that I invited you to my sip and sample at my house next Thursday. I really hope you can make it. I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you soon. Something like that. So really simple. So send that out. So you've got the double whammy of the Facebook invite and the individual note. Those are individual notes out. And then you kind of let maybe a week go by, and then the week before the party, 4 days before the party, you're doing posts on your timeline, you're doing posts in the party event. I'm so excited to see everybody. The distributor, if they're, kind of comfortable, might do a selfie with a product that they love and are excited about. Just kind of like share the positivity and invite, kind of get the invite and the energy out. Okay, so you're doing the marketing that way. Now, and of course, like the day before, you usually want to send short reminders as well to anybody that said yes, maybe, or didn't reply. Like, hey, just as a reminder, my sip and sample is tomorrow night. I really hope you can make it. Can't wait to see you, that kind of thing. Okay, so you have that, right? That's kind of basic. I think everybody probably get pretty comfortable with that one. But how do you actually do the party? This is what everyone wants to know. Okay, so I usually show up about 30 minutes before the party is going to start to kind of set up with my products. I'm going to show you what's in my product, like my party box that I have here. If you don't have a leader that can come, and when I say leader, you do not need to be Presidential Diamond. I tell all my rubies they're responsible for running parties. I might help them with the first one if they've never done one, but they're really at a Ruby level. You can talk about the products, and that's the only thing that you need to know, and the business is to actually be able to talk about the products in the business. So once you're a Ruby, you can do that. So you can support your entire team's parties. You can do them on your own, and it's just getting over the intimidation factor of I don't know how to run one, but it's really easy. We're going to go over that in a minute. So I show up about a half an hour before and we set up. So all that I'm doing for setup is I have a box here with about 10 products in it. And here's the big mythology one. You don't need to have 10 products, and some people would say 10 products. Shouldn't you have 25? Shouldn't you have the whole line? No. Because it's overwhelming to people, first of all. And second of all, you really to have a successful party, if you can have people sample 3 things, okay, I want you to have that in mind, 3 things, you're okay. So let's say that's Hydrate, Keto Coffee, and Greens, that's fine. Let's say that's Collagen, BFF, and Lip and Eye, that's fine. 3 things. Because what happens is if people can just try a few things and they like them and they understand them, subtly in the human brain, credibility spreads across the whole product line, and you can talk to them about things that they're not actively trying. And especially if you've tried it or somebody else in the room has tried it and you're like, no, that's really good, I really like how it tastes, and they can't taste it in the moment, they're going to trust you at that point. They've tried other things, they see how they work, they see that you know what you're talking about, or that you're at least super excited, and that's going to be enough. So really for parties, if you can have 3 things to sample, that's great. So let's say that you don't even have 3 things to sample, or the products that you use are like Fat Fighters and TFX and Greens. So people can't really sample those. Ask an upline or order a cheap sample pack. Of course, you can do that on your auto ship. But ask your upline for a few coffee samples, a few green samples. It doesn't need to be like a whole bag of keto coffee. And by the way, I love keto coffee because even if you don't drink it a ton yourself, you can use your product rewards and get a bag for $20 to prep for your party using a product reward. A product reward is when you get 2 loyal customers. So there's lots of options. And also if you get your kit, set aside stuff that maybe you're not going to use right away, just because you might want to use it for a sip and sample. Okay. So 3 things, and ask for help if you don't have 3 things, or maybe order a little bit, but you don't need to have 10 things even. Okay. So here are the 10 things I have, and they're all very sampleable. Okay. That's why I do it. I know that they're going to taste good. I know that they're the hot product right now. They're super sexy. So I've got Greens on the go, both in berry and chocolate. I've got Hydrate. I've got Keto Coffee. I don't even have the K-Cups in here, although I have plenty at home. I got plain Keto Coffee. I've got my BFF, which I'm obsessed with, and that's my last bag. So hopefully it won't all be used up before it comes back in stock. I've got collagen. I've got Keto Energy. Okay, those are the things I have to sample, and I mentioned the berry greens as well. And then I threw in there a couple of things I had on hand. Probiotics, Thermifide X, Confianza and Fat Fighters, as well as the new cleanse. I often will have like lip and eye as well, or maybe the exfoliating peel, which smells really good. So parties like this, people like to smell it at parties. And of course, wraps and defining gel. Those are our foundational products. But I honestly really focus on the drinkable products because I just find like that's really fun. They're pretty, they're interesting, and that keeps people very occupied. Okay, so that's your product list. And you've got all your products, and again, if you only have 3 on hand, don't worry. Why? Because you got your catalogs now. We've got catalogs. They're wicked cheap, super cheap, so handy at parties, okay? You can get, I think 25 for $5. And so I might be mixing 3 things. Literally, even at the event, I'm only mixing 3 things, even though I have all this stuff. I should add that. So the other ones are really for display, but you can use this for display. And let's say that you don't have $5 or your party's tomorrow and you haven't gotten you can print these at a library in black and white. It's okay, whatever you need to do. Library costs you 10 cents a page usually, right? And so that is kind of what your tool, along with the whatever you have on hand. You also, from your eSuite documents, if you like, they have some great like things that you can use, like the 5-minute presentation or the Try It PowerPoint. Those are things that you can print off at a library, black and white, if you need to, and just use them like with the before and afters in the 5-minute presentation or the Try It presentation, just to show some examples, okay? And that's very easy to do because they're already in eSuite documents. I don't have that, to be honest with you. I've just gone and started using the catalog now that they're back. But when we were out of catalogs for a long time, I was using those other materials, and that was great to prompt conversation. Okay, so how does the party work? People show up. Let's say the party is at 6 p.m. at night. Usually we do them 6 to 8 p.m., maybe 6 to 7:30 p.m., just depending on kind of the vibe when we talk to the DT that's hosting. I call them sip and samples usually because it just sounds more low key and fun than parties. So let's go back to Chrissy. Chrissy has a sip and sample. I come in half an hour before. We set up just in a part of her kitchen counter these products. We have the little baby sample cups. I ask her to pull out 3 or 4 shaker bottles or water bottles, and we're literally going to just mix stuff in real time when people show up. So people show up at 6, usually around 6:15, I'm mixing berry greens. That's the first thing I do, unless everybody in the room has already tried them, which sometimes happens, but usually not. And then at a normal party, I'm usually mixing collagen next, and then I'll often mix collagen and greens together as a third thing, because that's what I drink every morning. So I'm just sharing my own, this is what I do. And I just love the collagen and the greens. They're just foundational products that can help anybody with their with their health goals. And so those are ones that are really easy for me to talk about, and they are yummy. Then we will turn to keto coffee. I usually do keto coffee plain and keto coffee with chocolate greens. So that's all I normally do at a normal party, are those 4 products. So I said 4 products, not 3, but that's 4. And even though I have all this stuff, okay, it's really not a big deal. So, once in a while, if someone's like really excited about BFF or Hydrate or something like that, yeah, maybe we'll mix it. But if you didn't have it, you can just describe it. And if they've tried other things and that they like, the products will have credibility, okay? So I start that at 6:15 with greens. And then really around like every 5 or 10 minutes, I'm kind of mixing something new for that first 30 minutes, 6:15 to 6:45 hour, okay? And really trying to keep the conversation organic. So if people are asking me questions, or when I first hand them the little sample cup, I'll explain what it is, but it's not really like all eyes on Mira, give your big spiel, Mira. It's not really about that. It's more like they may be talking about their kids or work or, their vacation coming up, whatever it is. And I just let that flow. I try not to interrupt it and just explain, and that just relaxes people. I'll often ask them, some personal questions to get to know them, just so they feel like they know me, because I'm a stranger in this house and a stranger to them. And all the while, the new distributor is watching me make it. So sometimes if they've never tried something, or they made something, like keto coffee is one that sometimes people don't quite get how to make the first time, I'll show them how I'm making it as I do it. But also letting them shine. So if it's something that they really love, just letting them tell their story. Oh yeah, berry greens, I have that every day after lunch, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so that's kind of the 6:15 to 6:45 hour. Then at 6:45 is when I say, hey, Christy, why don't I spend 5 minutes just going over, all the stuff that we have today, and that'll give people some background. She's like, great. By the way, we usually planned all this in advance. And so I'll spend literally 5 minutes. I use the catalog largely, and I kind of go through the categories in each catalog, in each category of the catalog, and just kind of highlight a couple products. And often kind of early on in this, I'll also say, either in the conversations earlier in the day, if they are asking me a lot of questions, I'll ask them what their goals are. But often it's during this session at the 6:45 minute mark where I'm like, okay, can you guys mind telling me a little about your goals if you're comfortable saying them? And that kind of helps me shape what I'm going to talk about in that catalog section. I don't talk that long. I really try to keep it to 5 minutes and go through, okay, here's our lifestyle brand, here are our greens, here's our keto line, here's our skincare, and here's our foundational products, the wraps and defining gel. So I'll just kind of go through like the 5 or 6 major categories, again, shaping to what they've told me is their goals. It's hard to do that in five or 10 minutes, but just, touch the highlights, and they're going to ask questions if they have them. Let's say you don't have a leader there and you're a newbie. How the heck do you do all this? So this is something where if you're doing your own party, you can have a leader come in on FaceTime during this part. Okay, so I have done that where I FaceTime into like a team member down in Atlanta or whatever, because she just wanted to have me there as backup and to kind of give the information, to ask any questions, and to let her say to her guests, Mira's going to come on at 7:45 or whatever, I think it was 7:45 that time, and say, and why don't we ask her those questions? And it was perfect. Okay, so anyway, so I'm doing that spiel for 5 or 10 minutes on the products. Then, unless for some reason we're just not going there for that party, we'll usually plant a question from the distributor host that will say, hey, Mira, by the way, can you tell them how much you make? Because I'm not going to just be like, I make 5 figures a month. And so that gives me a prompt to say, well, I'm an average income of $23,000 a month, but that's not where I started. And I give a minute or two of my story. I started for just $500 to $1,000 a month. I was working full time, blah, 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 blah. And that, you can see the eyes open up when you tell that story. But your leader does not need to be a presidential diamond. It could be a ruby. It could be a ruby that I started this business just to really pay debt down. And I'm making, $300 to $500 extra a month. And I've been able to do X, Y, and Z. And that will resonate with people. I mean, that is the difference for a lot of people in balancing their budget. So don't feel like you have to have this crazy story about, 5 figures and all of that. The leader can be that level. It can even be somebody that is an executive or even just a newer distributor. And then you talk more about your aspirational goals with the business. But it's really great. Then the prompt question may be like, hey, Mira, can you tell them a little bit about how you got into the business, right? And as opposed to, can you tell them how much money you make? That's the shock and awe question. But it can be just tell us a little bit how you got in the business. And that gives the leader in the room a chance to say kind of some of the stuff that they love about the business. Even if the financial goals are aspirational, they can talk about that. Okay, so we do that. So then it's about an hour into the party, and then we kind of go into a little bit more closing mode. So we usually, the distributor and I will kind of divide and conquer if there's multiple guests and say, hey, hey, I'll go off and talk to one person, and she'll go off and talk, what did you hear that you like? What questions do you have? Sometimes because they're looking at catalogs, they will see the loyal customer and distributor price in the presentation and ask that, or maybe even earlier than the presentation, but often this is the time that we talk about it. Let me show you guys real quick. You may not be able to see it on the screen, but I have a form that I've literally used for 3 years. It's so simple. That is how we, little half-page signups, and then we cut these for all of our parties. And you can actually use these for one-on-one meetings and other things that are belly-to-belly, not just parties. But it says, sign up for the 90-day loyal customer program today. And then it says, with the 90-day loyal customer program, you get 40% off of each of the 3 monthly shipments. And then it talks about like a couple more aspects of the loyal customer program. And then here it says, yes, I want to join the loyal customer. Here, you can't see this. Yes, I want to join the loyal customer program. And it collects all their information, including the last line is products for my first order. And this is so handy, you guys, because it really helps the new distributor. They have basically the whole loyal customer script in front of them and can explain kind of the benefits. And what's awesome with the catalogs is you can literally be there with the person and say, you can see, like, if you buy greens, you're going to pay $59 retail, but you get them for $35 loyal customer. And so all of this just makes things easy. So usually about an hour in, we're going for the close conversations. And don't be afraid ever to ask, well, what do you think you want to start with? You just want to go straight. So everything that I did, if you watch YouTube videos on parties, there are some, and I've seen trainings at like conference, amazing ideas, like amazing ways to give presentations and all of this. But this is something that I think is very duplicable and the like. So I really want to create a baseline template for how to do parties that is duplicable. And then sometimes, people will want to keep drinking wine and hanging out for a couple hours. We do of course offer people if they want to wrap. Sometimes people do, sometimes people don't. And that obviously will add a little time to the party potentially, if they're wrapping. But for the most part, the vision is like within an hour and 15 minutes, you've kind of organically connected with them as human beings, like really, talking about, just hanging out, talking while you're passing around samples. Then you do the quick 5-10 minute presentation. Then you do the close, and then, you just kind of hang out, you chill. So that's kind of how we do our parties and make them super simple for people to repeat and do them at all levels when they're new. Okay. Now, a couple common questions. What if I only get 2 or 3 people? Listen. We have had so much success with parties with just one guest. That one guest sometimes becomes a distributor because you can really sit down and talk to them. That actually just happened to me like 3 days ago. And right there, you've got a distributor that you can pour into, and you think about it as basically a potential distributor meeting that you just close the person at. And also as a leader, I'm just telling you, like, just the mere fact of driving and sitting with somebody in their kitchen and pouring into them. So if literally there's nobody that shows up, which absolutely happens all the time, you just sit there and we are going through their messages, we're going through their social and helping them with that. And so, so when I say it happens all the time, I don't mean like every party. Okay. Our team had, it's a Monday right now. Our team had 5 or 6 parties the last 4 days over the longer weekend, and signed 30 LCs out of them. I mean, it's been extremely effective. But I've absolutely had parties, many where nobody showed up, and we turned it into a training power hour, and I was able as a leader to pour into that person, which was awesome. So the biggest thing is don't feel defeated if nobody shows up or only a few people show up. You embrace the people that showed up. And then here's my next tip. You are going to bring a little guilt trip to the people that didn't show. What do I mean by that? First of all, you're going to post pictures in your Facebook event and your timeline, you having such a good time, big smile on your face with, if you have a guest or you have a leader there, you take a picture, say this is the best party you've ever had, like ever, like create the FOMO, create the fear of missing out. And then in turn, write those individual people that were like RSVPing maybe or yes and then bailed, write them and say, I'm so sorry, Maggie, you didn't make it. Let's talk about, I definitely would love to talk to you more about the products and what you want to do. Or if it was a business, talk to you more about the business, when works for you, and get them on the phone, do it by message, whatever makes sense. But get turn the screw a little bit and get them talking with you. Okay. Don't wait till the next party. Don't just pretend, or just don't just assume that they're not interested. They usually are. But people are busy, and it's easier to not show up to something than to show up, right? That's why the people that show up go up, right? Because it's the people that are with the right attitude. So get people on the phone or by message, follow up with them after the party if they didn't show up. And from there, I mean, just wash, rinse, repeat. Okay. So once you've done your first party, if you fall in love with it, like I did, like I get so freaking juiced by parties, you just want to basically say to yourself, all right, I like this. I'm going to go book the next one, okay? So one of the biggest things I'll say as a parting note is people procrastinate so badly on scheduling parties. It's one of my pet peeves. So if you decide that you either like them or you want to try them, like get a date on the calendar. Don't ask your 75 friends what date works for them, because honestly, they're just going to put you on the hamster wheel and you're never going to get a date. So think about what date works for you and your life and which date you think theoretically tends to be best, and book the party. Let's say only 2 people go. Well, when you book the next party, okay, you can, if somebody said to you Thursdays don't work for me or whatever, you can do it not on a Thursday. But more importantly, when you book the second party, people have a really hard time saying no to you 2 times. And then when you book the third party, really hard time saying no 3 times. Really hard. They feel like they need to show up. So consistency and just getting it on the schedule is huge. This is the number one reason that parties don't happen is people procrastinate, they overthink. Just put a date on, and listen, if nobody shows up, you're at your house. You can make dinner, you can message people, you can have the BFF all to yourself, which is awesome, right? We all love BFF. So I hope that helps just as an overview of how we do sip and samples. And just, again, don't overthink. Just get them on the calendar. Follow the system I just did. Get your 3 products. Get your leader in person or on FaceTime. Not FaceTime. Yeah, FaceTime is guess what I'm trying to say. And from there you're going to rock it. You really are. And the more you do them, the better you're going to get. All right. Hope this helps. Bye, guys.